My name is Geert Hendricks, and I'm the CEO and the founder at Farmall. Also, call myself an urban farmer, and aim to live that lifestyle of the urban farmer as much as I can. So yeah, Farmall, we're an organization and we develop the tools and the experiences to grow food in the city and actually make it easy for everyone to start growing their own food and indoors. So we build the systems, but also the educational resources and the experiences to make that whole picture complete. So our aim is for everyone to be able to grow their own food and being able to do that consistently in the environments that we have available to us. Yeah, maybe for starters, I'll tell you a bit more about why growing food in the workplace is so valuable and why we think it's so important. Maybe for starters, has anyone heard of biophilia or has done some research on biophilia? Biophilia is basically how we connect as humans to our natural environments and how subconsciously we feel much better and we feel better connected once we're in nature and we're connected to plants and animals. And that really, the biophilic design really helps improve people's feeling of well-being, of purpose, but also of general happiness and feeling good, and that really boosts productivity in the workspace. So growing food in the workspace can be really valuable if it's implemented well. There's different ways how growing food in the workspace can actually benefit your organization. One is to engage your team into positive conversation and into engage a conversation around fresh food. Growing food in the workplace can be done very, very easily, and integrating that into the day-to-day. And we've basically been doing that in the past with our customers. So we've worked with multiple big brands, Westpac, Melbourne Airport, HSBC, and where we basically implemented our Farmalls into the workforce and into the office, and engaged the whole team into growing food and connecting to how their food is grown. And how important it is to add freshly grown nutrition and fresh produce to their day-to-day diets. So yeah, and in the past, what we found in doing those activations and experiences is that we could actually influence people's stress levels, increase productivity, but also teach them something new. And by adding greenery and fresh food into the office, it really empowers and engages that conversation and brings sustainability and purpose to the foreground. It's very easy. Like, you don't need a big urban farm or like a veggie patch or a large vertical farm or even a farm mall in the office to start. Everyone can basically start with that today, and you can do that in about 5 or 6 different steps. And the first step is really starting with what you want to achieve. If you want to engage the team around fresh food, if you want to get people involved more in the community, if you actually want to improve your Net Promoter Scores, if you want to engage the team together and improve culture, or if you generally just need to lighten up the space and have a conversation topic to return to. So it's very important to set smart goals and to be able to measure the results back to that as well. So secondly, it's starting up and setting yourself up for success. Measurement is very important for yourself and for the organization to be able to show the benefits and to also show the collective result back to the team. So you can create a culture that's going to keep growing food in the office in that way. A couple of good tools are Surveymonkey. In Surveymonkey, you can really easily set up a couple of questions. It's very important that these questions are the same questions all the way through the exercise of growing food, so that you can actually measure the difference as you go along. And it's good to include a Net Promoter Score in there as well, on how likely your employees are to talk about the activities that they've done during the day. The good thing about using Surveymonkey is that you can actually really start tracking improvements in mood, in stress levels and anxiety, but also in feeling more connected to the sustainability goals and the purpose of the organization. I wouldn't ask too many questions, maybe one to 5 that people fill out every time after you've done an activity that involves growing food. The third one is preparing your materials, making sure that everyone has their growing materials. We recommend upcycling and repurposing, and making sure that you get seeds and watering can. So a couple of really good tools are just the standard Uber Eats containers like these. You can basically just pierce some holes in the bottom, and the lid can become a drip tray, and that basically becomes your growing tray. Another one of the taller ones can become the perfect greenhouse, and once you fill them with soil, you can put that on top. So that was 3, preparing your materials. 4 is actually to start growing, and we'll go a bit deeper in that further down the conversation. And 5 is actually sharing the produce, but also engaging the team into cooking healthy meals and actually garnishing them with fresh produce, your microgreens and your sprouts. When a chef in a restaurant garnishes the dish, that's the feeling when he's feeling the most pride, and when he's feeling a sense of achievement about finishing that presentation and bringing that to the punter or the customer. And that's a feeling that really boosts our happiness and well-being as well. If we make the time together as a team to look out for healthy lunch, make the time to cook it together, and then share our creations. Even we can do it from a distance or in the office, and then garnish it off with produce we've grown ourselves. It's all about instant gratification, and when we grow greens that are ready within a week's time, and being able to add that on a day-to-day to our meals, that instant feeling of success will make sure that this will keep going within your organization. And then, the next one is measuring your data and actually reporting that back to the organization, reporting it back to your team, so that you can see what you're achieving together, and then taking the next steps and see how you can take it to the next level, like getting involved together in a team building activity, by volunteering in a local community garden, getting involved in a local urban farm, or even helping each other out in your backyards, and actually doing a rotating gardening exercise in each other's backyards. So those are the 6 very easy steps to implement food production in your organization. Make sure you set a calendar and a WhatsApp group. So personally, we use Slack at our organization, which is a good one. But WhatsApp, or even a Facebook group for your team is very handy as a tool to share your winnings and to share images. Also, encouraging the employees to share on social media for your organization really helps to bring that success towards the public. So how can we start growing food in the office or at home? We want to, in the beginning, make our life easy and do take the simple route. The three key ways to start growing foods that are relatively easy and give immediate results are growing sprouts, seedlings, and microgreens. And I'll tell you a bit more about that. There's a big difference between sprouts and microgreens. With sprouting, basically, we germinate the greens without soil or without any growing materials or even light. We basically add the seeds to a jar, and everyone has a jar like this at home, so we can all find the materials in our environment. And when we add the seeds to the jar, we basically soak them for 24 hours. So overnight, the seeds get soaked in water. So, and depending on the seeds, they'll start expanding. The next day, when you come back to your jar, you basically want to remove the water and give them a good rinse. Once we've done that, we want to add a piece of cloth to the top of the jar. There's specific cheesecloths, as you call it, that you can use. But I even tried it with an old t-shirt, so any type of clean cloth that you can repurpose will do. And you use a rubber band to make sure that it stays attached. And then basically on a day-to-day basis, we're going to rinse the seeds twice daily. And we basically just hold it under the tap, give it a good shake, pour the water out, and then keep the jar upside down in a bowl. What that allows is the air to go in on one end and to come out at the other end, and it keeps the sprouts aerated and avoids them from rotting. And sprouts are very important that we do that rinsing habit twice daily, because otherwise, you might get salmonella or any of those kind of risks that come with fresh produce. So when you're sprouting, always be aware that you do it twice daily. Sprouts are really, really good for us. By sprouting, you basically the same food that we're used to, like lentils, beans, chickpeas, peas. Any type of legume and seed can be sprouted, like or chia seeds, flax seeds, even corn and wheat and barley are relatively easy to sprout. And by sprouting, you actually release a lot more nutrition in the seed, and you get more proteins and more enzymes and amino acids that become available. And by adding a daily handful of fresh sprouts to your diet, you can really boost your nutrition. And that's real food that you know where it's coming from. You've grown it in the kitchen, you've germinated it in the kitchen, and it adds value to every type of meal. That's what we love about these techniques, about growing sprouts and microgreens. You can add it to your breakfast, you can add it to your lunch, you can add it to dinner. It's just that easy bit of fresh, healthy food that you can that you can add to anything. And the whole process of looking after it twice daily really adds to our feeling of nurturing and being nurtured, and makes us feel better overall. So yeah, that's it for sprouting. So you only need a jar, a cloth, and a rubber band, and of course the seeds. But if we look through our pantry, we can already start finding the seeds probably in there that we can germinate from any type of bean, lentil, like I said, and peas. Not the ones from a tin jar, but the dried ones, the fresh dried ones. So A really good way to engage the team and actually measure your outcomes is to weigh your produce and actually combine all the grown produce together in an Excel sheet and actually see how much fresh produce you're growing together. Then by combining that with the value, with the retail value, you know how much food value you're growing. And you can also count the amount of jars and cloths and rubber bands that you're collectively repurposing as you can now giving those materials another life. So the second way to grow fresh produce indoors is by growing microgreens. Microgreens are the next stage after a sprout. A microgreen is when a seed germinates into the first two leaves. And that's basically the stage where the plant is most nutritious. And a microgreen is the miniature version of the herbs and vegetables we know in our day-to-day lives, like kale microgreens, broccoli microgreens, radish microgreens, like the varieties we know as fully grown. They actually have a lot more nutrition to bring us once they've grown in a high density environment, but only to the size of the first two leaves. And we can grow those microgreens in different medias. So one is soil, just your standard seed raising mix. It doesn't need much nutrition, so even the soil from your backyard will often do. There's different types of coconut quarry you can find at Bunnings or in other environments, or we use a material which is made from hemp, which is a waste product from the hemp. From the hemp industry, basically. As long as it's natural and easy to use, basically. So you can use larger trays, or if you just want to keep it small, like I said before, you can easily use a container that you find in your pantry, and also a spray bottle. You can reuse one that's been used for something else. Make sure you rinse it properly and use maybe some bicarb soda to actually make sure all the chemicals are removed before you start using it. So with microgreens, the key is to seed really densely. So you get one seed for every square 3 millimeters. So basically that seed it densely, but they still have space to evolve and to grow into the size where they've got their first two leaves coming out. So a little tray like this can easily provide you with 6 serves, 6 handfuls of microgreens. And they basically germinate within a couple of days, and within 10 days to 14 days, you've got a full tray of produce ready to go. Same with microgreens. We love them because they're super versatile. You can add them to anything from smoothies to hamburgers to your healthy lunches to dinners. So it just only a snip away from farm to plate. Couldn't get any fresher than that. When you germinate them, make sure that they're in the dark at the start. So you basically want to germinate them in the dark till they're about 1 or 2 centimeters tall, and then expose them to light on your windowsill. And a few days later, you've got a healthy bunch of fresh greens. Same here. Make sure you measure or count the amount of times you add microgreens to your diet, and share your creations with the team. Seeds are widely available, but we can help you out with those materials as well. And then seedlings. Seedlings are a great way to experience growth and joy. We've got 4 seasons in a year, and every season allows us to grow different varieties of produce in the garden. So basically we can grow seedlings indoors year round. I've got some going here. The sunflowers are coming out, and the rainbow charts, and it's just it's such a joy to see the seedlings come out, and actually being able to follow that process. If you've got too many, you can always share them between each other, share them within the community, and actually populate your garden and keep your garden going year round with different types of greens as well. It's always a good idea to save some seeds from the produce you're using in the kitchen, like pumpkins and capsicums and tomatoes. It's relatively easy to remove the seeds and put them to dry on a little tray, and then you can basically replant those a couple of months later when they've dried. So yeah, those are 3 very easy ways to start growing. So you don't need much to get started, and you can straight away start with implementing it into the day-to-day work environment. Set a few times in the calendar for the team every week, where you share your lunch and you share your produce that you've grown, and you can have discussions around sustainability and urban agriculture in general. So it's a great way to start conversations on how growing food can make us feel better, but also can provide more sustainability at work and at home. So yeah, that's about it. At Farmall, we like I said before, we designed the systems that actually make it easier for us to do it, and we also run a program that engages people in these activities and actually teaches them one step at a time on how food can actually bring those benefits not only to us at work but at home as well. And yeah, it's great fun. Of course, there's always people that have more interests in growing greens and eating healthy than others. So it's about, in the beginning, about identifying the people that have that natural interest towards growing. One rule we often apply is we only need 3.5% of people to be engaged in it for it to be successful. Because from the moment you've got 3.5% of people engaged, they start sharing their experiences. The rest will follow. Basically, it's peer pressure, and from the moment you've got a small group that's having fun and that's really enjoying the process and sharing their experiences, others will get interest over time, and you'll be able to drag more of them over the line. Of course, I don't think you can force anyone to eat healthy or to grow their own greens or to garnish their lunches. It's something that you can only invite people to. But I guess if it's interesting, not only from a growing perspective, but also from a conversation perspective, and you actually facilitate that in a way where people can connect with each other, and where it's the conversation starter, but not necessarily the conversation. It's a great way to get started. And at Westpac and larger organizations, we've always had a certain level of employees, a certain amount of employees engaged, and that rippled through the whole company to top management. I think my presentation today I had like an image of us taking Brian Hartzer, who was the CEO at Westpac last year, through the urban farm. So you really feel, you can really see that when it's about food and when it's about growing produce and for our own benefits, it's the whole organization gets involved, and you can really create that cross-pollination between departments and even different offices. Especially now that we're all online, it's easy to get the whole country involved, no matter where your office or your department is. It's not necessarily one team, but it can be people from different teams coming together and starting that conversation within the organization. Under the assumption that there is a workplace garden, and it's not always the case in a lot of places. But yeah, if there is one, it's that's an absolute luxury, and I think it's always good to have a few people taking responsibility for the growing process and sharing that with the group, and then also like sharing the harvest. I think one way to really encourage everyone to get involved in a workplace garden is doing like season harvest lunches or meals. We basically set up a large lunch where everybody brings their own dish, but you basically garnish or make a big salad with the harvest from that season, and then it's something that multiple people can get involved in, but a few people execute on it, because indeed when you get too many different ideas in the garden, it might get complicated. But yeah, like this, basically everybody's got their own garden on their desk, and you're all growing the same in a similar way. And some growing food always has its challenges, and failure is part of the process. So if we learn that by starting simple and understanding that as we fail, we learn together, and we can help each other out onto how to improve it. That also helps in the garden later on, when you've got that team building already engraved, and we've worked as a team growing sprouts and microgreens. Then we're going to work as a team a lot better in the actual garden. So yeah, I would recommend definitely to get everyone involved at a starting point. It's very important to set it up correctly and measuring the outcomes and sharing as much as we can about our progress, or germination to harvesting. And if you can really get that culture going where we're sharing images and experiences and recipes, and really make that part of the day to day, then the long-term benefits can be really wonderful. Yeah. There's many calendars online about the best seedlings for which seasons. It's always when you want to grow your own seedlings, to start 6 weeks before the season starts, so you actually have your seedling ready on the start of the season. So if you want to start planting your tomatoes at the beginning of September, then you probably want to start germinating them in the beginning of August. Yeah, this is basically our home setup. It's visible. It's basically a kit that we provide, which allows the grower to grow aquaponically, hydroponically, and grow your own seedlings, microgreens, and sprouts in a hydroponic and aquaponic way. So it's part of our educational program that we run. Yeah, it's just a complete set to grow your greens indoors on just like if you don't have any space, if you don't have the luxury to have a large backyard or a garden at work, it's a good place to start. Wicking bed, you always have to, when you install it, you always have to make sure it's waterproof. So using a pond liner or using materials that have already got a waterproof structure, like an IBC is often used as a wicking bed. So for those who haven't built a wicking bed yet, the wicking bed is basically where we've got water in the bottom, and then we use scoria or there's different technologies now, like the water up cells, as a way to support the soil that's coming on top. And in between, we've got a geotextile cloth, and then the soil sits on top. And basically, the water line is where the geotextile sits. So you'll have an overflow that, from the moment you add water to the wicking beds, it basically flows over at that point. And that's where the soil is able to actually wick up the water into the soil from underneath. So you always have basically water in the system available for the plants. And it's a much more effective way to grow, because the water doesn't just go through the soil and disappears. So it's much more water efficient and plant efficient to grow in that way. Especially in the city, it's hard to really find good soil. So wicking beds are a great way to reuse our rainwater, but also have a setup that works for our plants. One I can really recommend is the biofilter food cubes. They're a good way to start, or even the glow pair. Wicking beds, they're a bit smaller, but they're definitely good starting points.